The shattered husks of 1,000 Zorgon warships drifted lifeless through the void of space. The once mighty Zorgon Empire that dared to challenge the human dominion was no more, brutally punished for their fatal mistake. Only days ago, the galaxy trembled on the brink of total war. In the year 2257, Captain Marcus Novak of the Human Dominion Navy stood on the bridge of the battleship HDS Indomitable. They patrolled the Dominion border, vigilant for any threats. Alarms suddenly blared. Sensors had detected a massive Zorgon fleet amassing in Dominion space, an act of clear aggression. Novak knew if that Zorgon fleet attacked, millions of human lives would be lost. He had to act fast to neutralize this threat before it was too late. The survival of humanity itself hung in the balance. In the heart of the Zorgon Empire, Emperor Kravox sat upon his throne, seething with envy and resentment. For too long, the human dominion had held the technological advantage, their ships and weapons far superior to anything the Zorgons possessed. The Dominion's vast resources and thriving colonies were a constant reminder of what Kravox believed should rightfully belong to the Zorgon Empire. "The galaxy should be ours," Kravox growled, his clawed hands gripping the armrests of his throne. "The humans are nothing more than upstarts, undeserving of their power and prosperity." His advisors, a group of battle-hardened Zorgon warriors, nodded in agreement. They had long awaited the opportunity to strike at the heart of the human dominion, to bring the humans to their knees and claim their place as the true rulers of the galaxy. Kravox rose from his throne, his eyes blazing with determination. "The time has come to show the humans the might of the Zorgon Empire. We will crush them, starting with their pathetic border patrols. Ready the fleet. We attack at once." Within hours, hundreds of Zorgon warships, bristling with weapons and filled with eager warriors, assembled at the edge of Dominion space. The Zorgon fleet was an imposing sight, a sea of sleek black ships that seemed to absorb the very light around them. As the fleet crossed into Dominion territory, alarms blared on the HDS Indomitable. Captain Novak sprang into action, his years of training and experience kicking in. He barked orders to his crew, directing them to battle stations and preparing the ship's advanced weaponry. The Zorgon fleet closed in on the Indomitable, their weapons charging and targeting systems locked onto the human battleship. Novak knew they were outnumbered, but he also knew that the Indomitable was one of the most advanced ships in the Dominion Navy. They had a fighting chance. The first volley of Zorgon weapons fire slammed into the Indomitable's shields, causing the ship to shudder under the impact. Novak gritted his teeth, his hands flying over the control console as he directed the ship's return fire. The Indomitable's advanced lasers and missiles streaked through space, finding their marks among the Zorgon fleet. Explosions blossomed across the void as Zorgon ships were hit, their hulls buckling and rupturing under the onslaught. But the Zorgons kept coming, their numbers seeming endless. For every ship the Indomitable destroyed, 2 more took its place. The human crew fought valiantly, their skills and determination matched only by the relentless fury of the Zorgon attack. Novak knew they couldn't hold out forever. The Indomitable's shields were failing, and the ship's hull was beginning to buckle under the sustained fire. He made a split-second decision, one that could mean the difference between life and death for his crew. "Helm! Plot a course through the heart of the Zorgon fleet," Novak ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "We're going to hit them where it hurts." The helmsman, a young officer named Lieutenant Zhang, looked up at Novak with a mix of fear and determination in his eyes. "Aye, Captain. Plotting course now." The Indomitable surged forward, its engines roaring as it plunged into the midst of the Zorgon fleet. The Zorgon ships, caught off guard by the sudden maneuver, scrambled to reposition themselves and bring their weapons to bear on the human battleship. Novak and his crew fought with renewed vigor, their weapons tearing through the Zorgon ships at point-blank range. The Indomitable's shields flickered and strained under the onslaught, but they held barely. As the battle raged on, the Indomitable left a trail of destruction in its wake. Zorgon ships exploding and breaking apart under the relentless fire of the human weapons. But the Zorgons kept coming, their numbers seemingly inexhaustible, and Novak knew that even with their advanced technology and tactical expertise, they couldn't hold out forever against the overwhelming force of the Zorgon fleet. The Indomitable shuddered as another barrage of Zorgon weapons fire slammed into its weakening shields. Sparks flew from overloaded consoles, and the acrid smell of burnt electronics filled the air. Captain Novak gripped the armrests of his command chair, his knuckles turning white as he watched the ship's vital systems flicker and fail. "Captain, the engines are offline," Lieutenant Zhang shouted over the cacophony of alarms. "We're dead in the water." Novak cursed under his breath. The Zorgons had managed to hit the Indomitable's weak spot, crippling the ship's ability to maneuver. They were sitting ducks, vulnerable to the unrelenting onslaught of the enemy fleet. Suddenly, the ship's comm system crackled to life. The harsh, guttural voice of Emperor Kravox filled the bridge, dripping with contempt and triumph. "Captain Novak, your pathetic ship is at my mercy," Kravox sneered. "Surrender now, and I may spare your miserable lives. Refuse, and I will take great pleasure in personally overseeing your slow and painful demise." Novak's eyes narrowed, a fire burning within them. He would rather die than surrender to this monster, this tyrant who sought to enslave and destroy all that humanity had built. "Emperor Kravox, I have a message for you," Novak said, his voice steady and filled with defiance. "Go to hell." With that, Novak turned to his tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Singh. "Activate the self-destruct sequence. We're not letting the Zorgons have the Indomitable." Singh nodded grimly, his fingers flying over the console as he initiated the ship's final protocol. A timer appeared on the main view screen, counting down from 5 minutes. The Zorgon fleet, sensing the Indomitable's impending destruction, surged forward, determined to board the ship and claim it as a prize before it was too late. The battered human battleship shook as the enemy vessels latched onto its hull, their boarding parties cutting through the weakened defenses. Novak and his crew prepared for their final stand, arming themselves with whatever weapons they could find. They would fight to the last, ensuring that the Zorgons paid dearly for every inch of the Indomitable they tried to take. Just as the timer ticked down to its final seconds and the Zorgon boarders breached the bridge, a miracle happened. The void of space lit up with the sudden appearance of a massive human Dominion fleet, led by the imposing figure of Admiral Elena Petrovich aboard her flagship, the HDS Retribution. The Dominion reinforcements wasted no time, unleashing a devastating barrage of advanced weaponry upon the unsuspecting Zorgon fleet. Plasma beams, graviton torpedoes, and antimatter missiles tore through the enemy ships, vaporizing them in brilliant flashes of light. Caught completely off guard, the Zorgon fleet quickly fell into disarray. Their ships, once so formidable, now seemed fragile and vulnerable in the face of the human Dominion's superior technology. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Novak watched in awe as the tide of battle turned. The Zorgon boarders, realizing that their fleet was being decimated, retreated in panic, fleeing back to their own ships in a desperate attempt to escape the onslaught. Admiral Petrovich's face appeared on the Indomitable's view screen, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and determination. "Captain Novak, sorry we're late to the party. Let's finish this together." Novak grinned, a sense of renewed hope surging through him. "With pleasure, Admiral." As the combined might of the human Dominion bore down upon the Zorgon fleet, Emperor Kravox could only watch in horror as his grand plan crumbled before his eyes. His ships, once the pride of the Zorgon Empire, were reduced to shattered husks, drifting lifeless through the void. The Zorgons, their forces decimated and their dreams of conquest shattered, had no choice but to retreat, fleeing back to their own space like whipped dogs. The human Dominion had proven once again that they were not to be trifled with, that any attempt to challenge their supremacy would be met with swift and unrelenting force. In the heart of the Zorgon Empire, Emperor Kravox seethed with rage, his claws digging into the armrests of his throne. The humiliating defeat at the hands of the human Dominion burned in his mind, fueling his desire for vengeance. He had underestimated the humans, a mistake he vowed never to make again. "Gather our remaining forces," Kravox growled, his eyes blazing with a fierce determination. "Every ship, every warrior, every weapon at our disposal. We will crush the human dominion and take what is rightfully ours." His advisors, their own pride wounded by the recent loss, eagerly set about mobilizing the Zorgon war machine. Shipyards worked around the clock, churning out new warships and repairing those that had survived the battle. Recruitment centers overflowed with eager volunteers, each Zorgon driven by a thirst for blood and glory. Within weeks, the Zorgon Empire had amassed a formidable armada, far larger and more heavily armed than the fleet that had initially attacked the human dominion. Emperor Kravox stood on the bridge of his flagship, the ZES Devastator, a sense of grim satisfaction washing over him as he surveyed the sea of ships stretching out before him. "Set course for human dominion space," Kravox commanded, his voice echoing through the ship's intercom. "Let the galaxy tremble at the might of the Zorgon Empire." As the Zorgon armada surged forward, crossing the border into human dominion territory, alarms blared across human space. The human dominion, having learned from the initial Zorgon attack, had bolstered its defenses and prepared for the inevitable retaliation. Admiral Elena Petrovich, her face set in a determined scowl, stood on the bridge of the HDS Retribution, the flagship of the human dominion fleet. She had seen firsthand the devastation the Zorgons were capable of, and she was determined to stop them at any cost. "All ships, battle stations," Petrovich barked, her voice cutting through the tense silence. "The Zorgons think they can take what is ours, but we will show them the true strength of the human dominion." As the two mighty fleets converged, the void of space erupted in a cataclysmic display of weaponry and destruction. Plasma beams crisscrossed the darkness, while torpedoes and missiles streaked through the void, seeking out their targets with relentless precision. On the front lines of the battle, Captain Marcus Novak sat in the command chair of the HDS Retribution, his eyes narrowed in concentration as he directed the ship's formidable arsenal against the Zorgon invaders. The loss of the Indomitable still weighed heavily on his mind, but he channeled that pain into a fierce determination to protect his people and his home. "Target their flagship," Novak ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos erupting around him. "We take out Kravox, and the rest of their fleet will crumble." The Retribution surged forward, its advanced shields absorbing the brunt of the Zorgon fire as it closed in on the ZES Devastator. The two massive ships, each a testament to their respective civilizations' technological prowess, clashed in a titanic struggle for supremacy. As the battle raged across multiple star systems, the human dominion and Zorgon Empire trading blows in a conflict that would shape the future of the galaxy, Captain Novak received a secret transmission from Admiral Petrovich. "Captain Novak," Petrovich's voice crackled over the secure channel, "I have a mission of the utmost importance for you. We've identified a critical weakness in the Zorgon war machine, a central hub that controls their supply lines and weapons production." Novak leaned forward, his eyes intent on the flickering holographic display. "What do you need me to do, Admiral?" "I'm tasking you with leading a strike force deep into Zorgon territory," Petrovich continued, her voice grave. "Your mission is to infiltrate this hub and cripple their ability to wage war. It won't be easy, but if anyone can pull it off, it's you and your crew." A grim smile tugged at the corners of Novak's mouth. "Consider it done, Admiral. The Zorgons won't know what hit them." As the HDS Retribution broke away from the main battle, flanked by a hand-picked squadron of the human dominion's most elite ships, Captain Novak felt a sense of purpose settle over him. This was more than just another mission. It was a chance to strike a decisive blow against the Zorgon Empire and ensure the safety of the human dominion. The journey through Zorgon space was fraught with peril, the strike force navigating through treacherous asteroid fields and evading roving patrols of enemy ships. But Novak and his crew were undaunted, their resolve hardened by the knowledge that the fate of their people rested on their shoulders. As they neared their target, a heavily fortified Zorgon industrial complex, Captain Novak gathered his officers in the Retribution's briefing room. The holographic display in the center of the table showed a detailed schematic of the complex, its various defenses and weak points highlighted in glowing red. "This is it," Novak said, his voice filled with a quiet intensity. "We hit them hard and fast, take out their primary reactor core, and get out before they have a chance to retaliate. Every second counts, so let's make them count." The officers nodded, their faces set in determined lines. They knew the risks, but they also knew that failure was not an option. The human dominion was counting on them, and they would not let their people down. As the strike force entered the Zorgon complex's sensor range, alarms blared across the enemy facility. Zorgon defenders scrambled to their battle stations, their ships and weapon emplacements powering up to repel the human intruders. But the human Dominion ships were ready, their advanced cloaking technology allowing them to slip past the outer defenses undetected. It was only when they were within striking distance of the reactor core that they decloaked, their weapons already primed and ready to fire. The battle was fierce and bloody, the Zorgon defenders fighting with the desperate fury of those who knew they were cornered. But the human strike force was relentless, their superior technology and training proving decisive in the close-quarters combat. Captain Novak led from the front, his plasma rifle cutting down Zorgon warriors with ruthless efficiency. His crew fought alongside him, their bravery and skill a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human Dominion. As the reactor core finally fell, consumed in a blinding flash of light and heat, the Zorgon complex began to crumble around them. Captain Novak and his crew raced back to their ships, dodging falling debris and fighting off the last desperate attacks of the Zorgon defenders. They barely made it out before the complex exploded, the shockwave buffeting their ships and sending them tumbling through space. But they had done it. The heart of the Zorgon war machine had been destroyed, and with it, the Empire's ability to wage war against the human Dominion. As Captain Novak and his victorious strike force returned to the main battle, they were greeted by a sight that would be forever etched in their memories. The human Dominion fleet, bolstered by the success of Novak's mission, had turned the tide against the Zorgon armada. The once mighty Zorgon ships were now in full retreat, their hulls battered and their spirits broken. On the bridge of the ZS Devastator, Emperor Kravox could only watch in impotent fury as his dreams of conquest crumbled before his eyes. The human Dominion had proven once again that they were a force to be reckoned with, their strength and resilience unmatched in the galaxy. As the Zorgon fleet limped back to their own space, the human Dominion celebrated their victory, the streets of their cities filled with cheering crowds and grateful citizens. But for Captain Novak and his crew, there was little time to rest on their laurels. They knew that the Zorgons, though beaten, would not stay down forever. There would be other battles, other challenges to face in the defense of their people and their way of life. But for now, as the HDS Retribution sailed through the stars, its crew battered but unbroken, Captain Novak allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. They had faced the worst the Zorgon Empire had to offer, and they had emerged victorious. And as long as the human Dominion had heroes like them to defend it, he knew that no force in the galaxy could ever truly defeat them. The strike force moved through the void of space like a pack of hungry wolves, their ships sleek and deadly, their weapons primed and ready. Captain Novak stood on the bridge of the HDS Retribution, his eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed their target, the heart of the Zorgon Empire. "All ships prepare for stealth approach," Novak said, his voice steady and calm. "We hit them hard and fast, take out their shipyards and weapons factories, and get out before they know what hit them." The crew of the Retribution responded with crisp efficiency, their hands flying over consoles and readouts as they made final preparations for the attack. In the hangar bays, elite teams of Marines checked their weapons and armor, their faces set in grim determination. As they neared the Zorgon homeworld, the strike force activated their advanced cloaking devices, their ships shimmering and disappearing from view. They slipped past the outer defenses like ghosts, their presence undetected by the enemy sensors. And then, with a sudden burst of speed, they struck. The human Dominion ships decloaked in the heart of the Zorgon shipyards, their weapons already firing. Plasma beams and antimatter missiles tore through the unfinished hulls of Zorgon warships, setting off chain reactions that ripped through the entire complex. On the surface of the planet, the weapons factories erupted in flames as the human Dominion bombardment rained down from above. Zorgon workers and soldiers scrambled for cover, but there was nowhere to hide from the relentless onslaught. In the chaos, Captain Novak and his Marines launched their ground assault, storming the factories and engaging the Zorgon defenders in close-quarters combat. The Zorgons fought with the ferocity of cornered beasts, but they were no match for the skill and technology of the human Dominion warriors. As the factories and shipyards burned, the Zorgon military crumbled like a house of cards. Their ships, half-built and unable to fight, were easy prey for the human Dominion fleet. Their soldiers, demoralized and leaderless, threw down their weapons and surrendered en masse. In the midst of the chaos, a single ship broke away from the Zorgon homeworld, its engines straining as it tried to escape the carnage. It was the personal flagship of Emperor Kravox, and on board were the last remnants of the Zorgon leadership, desperate to escape to a secret base in uncharted space. But Captain Novak was not about to let them slip away. The HDS Retribution, its hull scarred but its spirit unbroken, gave chase, its engines roaring as it closed the distance to its prey. Emperor Kravox, this is Captain Novak of the Human Dominion. Novak broadcast on all frequencies, his voice hard and unyielding. Surrender now or be destroyed. The response was a barrage of weapons fire, as the Zorgon flagship tried desperately to fight off its pursuer. But the Retribution was faster and more maneuverable, its advanced shields absorbing the worst of the damage. Novak gritted his teeth as the ship shuddered under the impact, but he never took his eyes off his target. With a flick of his wrist, he sent the Retribution into a steep dive, ducking beneath the Zorgon fire and coming up behind the flagship. "Fire all weapons," Novak ordered, his voice calm and controlled. The Retribution unleashed a devastating broadside, its plasma beams and antimatter missiles tearing through the Zorgon shields like tissue paper. The flagship shuddered and lurched, its engines flickering and dying as critical systems overloaded and exploded. On the bridge of the flagship, Emperor Kravox could only watch in horror as his ship fell apart around him. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks, and the stench of burning circuitry filled the air. The once proud ruler of the Zorgon Empire was reduced to a whimpering wreck. His dreams of conquest shattered beyond repair. With a final thunderous explosion, the Zorgon flagship broke apart, its fragments spinning off into the void of space. And with it, the last remnants of the Zorgon threat were extinguished, like a candle flame snuffed out by the wind. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.